Well, hello, class. I hope you're having a good day so far. And what I want to say, first of all, is good morning. And I want to tell you that this particular chapter, chapter 4, is really an exciting chapter because it has to do with building teams, adaptive and situational leadership, and leadership power. As I said earlier, there are times that we're going to have to react to situations, and there are times we're going to have to act on situations. That means there are times that we're going to be able to plan for things, know how they're going to happen, and follow through on a very specific, if you will, regimented protocol. But when we have to adapt, how effective are we? A, that is to adapt to the environment, and B, what type of leadership power do we have? Now, remember, we already talked about power in a different way. We talked about power in a way where we're dealing with integrating influence on individuals, not to manipulate them, but to bring them to a place that's going to make it better for the entire team. And that really means having good communication skills. That really means that everyone on the team understands everybody else. So essentially, the purpose of this chapter is to learn how to build teamwork and cohesion in an organization. Because what that does is that measures the organization's what we refer to as a leadership climate. So the focus on this chapter essentially is to identify the leader as the standard bearer for the organization and the person responsible for building a leadership climate. And that means that we're going to reward behavior that is consistent with the organization's values. Because remember, we talked about values being integrated into the goals, but the leadership being integrated into the values which define, accentuate, and complete the goals. So, we're going to talk about building teamwork and cohesion and how that's measured in a leadership climate. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about what adaptive personal leadership behavior is. We want to understand that. Again, adaptive personal leadership behavior. And then what you want to do is define your adaptive leadership behavior during both situational or environmental changes that are facing the organization. What will you do when the rubber has to meet the road and you can plan for it, or you can't plan for it? Are you the same person? Will you react the same way? Will you keep your cool? Will you be able to focus on what needs to be done and take the emotion out of the decision making process? How effective will you be with that? So, what we want to do in this chapter as well is define personal and position power. What are the elements of power? We already talked about power being an integration, but applying the elements of power as a leader means, first of all, how do you look at power? How do you assess it? You got to know what it is that you do that relates to the power that you use and how in your mind you identify with power as a leader. It's got to be more than just the sign on the door. It's got to be more than just someone that gets rah rah all the time. and needs that. See, the leader in you doesn't need to be told all the time that they're a good leader. They set example. They know that they're good leaders. But I remember, as my mom always used to say, now I understand it obviously as I've gotten older in years, a good leader as well as a good product doesn't have to be advertised because it's good, because it works, because you know that you have the best interests at heart that elude from yourself to others. That's what's really important here to understand. So that kind of sets the prelude of this particular day, January the 8th, the last day of our first week. And it's going to set the tone for what's to come next week. So I want you to pay special attention to this. Go on with the reading, listening, and viewing. Read chapter 8 and then go to your learning activities for the 2 discussion questions that will end this particular week. Essentially, you'll have 6 discussion questions in all. Okay, that is it for introducing today and this section, this chapter, and we're good.